Hi there, everyone. Today we have Jesse Dale in the library in studio with us, and we had a lot to go over. I've known Jesse for almost 10 years. He's always been a big fitness, lifting, junkie nut that he's been doing since he was a kid. And he's also parlayed that along with nutrition. So he's a true expert in physical fitness and nutrition. He runs Macro Millionaire, got into a lot of different things on performance. And with his expertise being those two things, we had plenty to talk about. One of the great stories you'll hear later is about the loan shark issue that he had to deal with when he was first starting his business. So we all have those ups and downs in the beginning and still do, but it was a good show, and I think you guys will like it. All right, welcome to the Athlete Builder Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Beebe. I'm in the library again. I got my teammate here, Lucas, and today's guest, we have Jesse Dale. And it was interesting, I pulled up Jesse's bio that he sent me, and on his education piece alone, there's 19 different lines from his associate to undergraduate degree, exercise science, all the acronyms, all the alphabet soup, NASM, CPTs everywhere, CrossFit Level 1, powerlifting, USAW, ISSA, you name it, 19 different lines. And then below that, 20 years of awards and accomplishments from performing in the bodybuilding world. He's done powerlifting, strongman also. He's owned multiple gyms. He promotes Natural Indiana, and he runs two of the largest all-natural bodybuilding competitions in the Midwest. He's the founder of Macro Missionary. One wife, no kids, couple dogs, travels around. So today we have Jesse Dale. Welcome to the show, Jesse.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, Jim.
I was trying to think back to when we met, and I believe it was at CrossFit Naptown, downtown Indianapolis. I think there was a once a year get together for CrossFit affiliate owners, and then you
Yes.
showed up, and I think that's where we first met.
Yeah.
And you came in with a lot of information, a lot of energy, and I was like, man, who is this guy? He's just ready to rock and roll all the time. So that was probably
Yeah, that was
2014, maybe.
yeah, I think so. That was back when we were the redheaded stepchild of CrossFit because we were doing bodybuilding competition and CrossFitters hated bodybuilders and bodybuilders hated CrossFitters and we
For
were
sure,
doing both.
right? How
So
could you have
a
people in the
lot of people were
same?
like, "Who is this guy? He's bodybuilding but CrossFitting? What the heck?"
But by definition, CrossFit's basically everything. So as long as you're doing something to be healthier, it all counts, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So where were you in the gym space that year, 2014, 2015? Did you still have your gyms or gym that you were running?
Yes, so we were running Results One. That was our CrossFit powerlifting gym, and then we had a couple anytimes at the time that we were running as well. So we had like the
Gotcha.
Globo gym, and then we had the functional fitness thing going on, and we had a pretty robust contest prep team back then.
So you're able to draw in from multiple demographics, multiple athletes for different areas, depending on what they're interested in.
Yeah, we would draw, man, we would have people come up like within half hour, 45 minutes radius, because what we offered was very unique. We were offering nutrition, contest prep, posing, kind of all under one roof. And not a lot of
Hmm.
people were in the nutrition game back in 2014. Now everyone's a coach, but back then, not everyone was a coach. And even today, everyone's a coach, but few people are actually coaching appropriately.
Sure. Right, right. Back us all the way up. So you're from Michigan, right?
Yeah, yep.
Way back in the day. You made
Yes,
your
yeah.
way, make walk me through the when you decided to leave Michigan, just chronologically brief Reader's Digest version from
Yeah. So
then till now.
so all I knew, like you talk about those acronyms, I was getting personal training certifications before I was even 18. My mom had to like sign off that because you have to be 18 to get certified. And I was doing that because frankly, I wanted to get jacked and
Hmm.
I didn't want to go the drug route and I wanted to win bodybuilding shows. So I'm like, I gotta outsmart these guys. I have to be the smartest person in the gym because there's no other way I'm going to be able to compete with these guys. So that's why I got all one certification after the other, so I literally could apply it to myself. and find the most scientific way possible to build muscle, lose fat, build symmetry. And a lot of it I attribute to Dr. Frederick Hatfield, former president of the ISSA. They called him Dr. Squat.
Dr.
His
Squat,
book,
right?
yeah, man. And he was the president of the ISSA, but his book, Hardcore Bodybuilding, A Scientific Approach, is probably the best literature to date that I've read on the science of bodybuilding. So I've always been into it, and I started out as a personal trainer for Bally Total Fitness. I
I
don't know if
remember
any of
that.
the listeners remember old Bally, Vic Tanny,
Right?
and they promoted me to be the district manager of Indianapolis and Southern Ohio. So I had clubs in Dayton, clubs in Cincy, and then 3 clubs here in Indy. So that's what brought me to Indianapolis.
Okay.
Bally's went through a couple bankruptcies. My area went from 9 clubs down to after the first bankruptcy, it went down to 6 clubs. Second bankruptcy, there was no more Bally's. So I did what every fitness guy dream is to do. I always wanted to, since I was a kid, lifting weights, wanted to open my own gym. You
Sure.
think, oh, it's just glorious. I'm going to own my own gym. I'm going to live the life. It's going to be great. So we literally in 2009, we gave up everything that we have to open up this Anytime Fitness. No banks within here on the planet would touch me.
Sure.
I ended up getting a loan from a loan shark, like a real live loan shark, like breaks legs, knew my parents' addresses. It was really scary, and I didn't know
Dang.
he was a loan shark until we closed. Like I thought he was a legit bank, but then he showed up to our closing and he's like, "Okay, so I see your parents live here, mom. Okay, well, dad's health isn't too well." And I'm like, "Whoa, how do you know that?" He's like, "Well, I got to make sure that you pay this note." I'm like,
Right.
"Okay, all right."
Did he
So
bring at the funding, did he bring cash?
no, he didn't. It was all wire and stuff because we were dealing with
Gotcha.
any kind of corporate. Um, but no, it was crazy.
It was
Uh,
legit. Like, hey, I'm gonna collect
yeah,
one way or another.
yes, yes.
Dang. How did you
Uh,
meet him?
we met him. Gosh, it was like I think it was honestly through Google because I was calling every bank and I couldn't get any
Hmm.
financing. And I
Yeah.
think I just like it was an ad or something on Google, like we finance anyone or 0% down and stuff like that. And that's who I got connected with. But it was my
Dang.
ex-wife that actually found the guy. But I think that's around what she did, like Google or something. I don't blame her. We had to use him. No one else
Sure.
is going to fund us. It's just not knowing that he was an actual loan shark until the closing was real weird.
Dang. So that was
Yeah.
'09.
Wow.
Yeah. So needless to say, man, I knocked on every door here on the south side of Indianapolis. We got to 1,000+ members, paid him off within 6 months, and then paid cash for our next Anytime.
Okay. I
Yeah.
imagine he was pretty relieved or even surprised that he got paid back that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably a little surprised. His interest rate was like 27%, so he's probably a little pissed, you know?
Right. That's such a great return. Even in today's interest market, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
27.
Oh, that was crazy. Yeah.
Hmm.
So then we paid in full for our second Anytime. So we had one on the south side, the north side, opened the CrossFit gym in like 2011-ish.
Okay.
And then unfortunately, we split up. So after 13 years, that marriage disintegrated. She took the north side facility. I took the CrossFit gym in the south side facility and then opened up another Anytime on the east side and then kind of rolled with that portfolio until 2017.
And then you offloaded those, got out of the gym space, and then started coaching remotely and focusing more on nutrition. Is that right?
Yeah, so we were doing nutritional counseling throughout all of this. That was kind of where, being in bodybuilding, kind of where my headspace was at.
Sure.
And we just really weren't doing it as a main profit center. We were doing it, a couple grand a month, not really, really going all in on it. But what we did find is it was very unique. Not a whole lot of people were doing macronutrient based nutrition other than us. So there wasn't much of a sales pitch with it because people would come to us. And that's when my wife now, Erica, where she's like, hey, we're really onto something. And she's all about the online space where I was the brick and mortar space. I
Hmm.
didn't even have a Facebook account at this point. And she was all about the online. So she's like, hey, we got to take this thing online. And that's when we launched Macro Millionaire.
Awesome. Awesome. And there's a lot of similarities. Not that you and I had the same background because mine's more finance and investments. But when I got into the gym space and I went through a number of certifications like you did, not nearly as many, and then I'm getting ready to open up my own place. I'm looking to get started end of 12 and open in early 13, and working in finance. Like you said, nobody wants to lend money to gym owners because it's a high risk, right?
Right.
There's a lot of capital up front. You buy a bunch of stuff, and for most folks, it's a luxury, not something they need to have. They'll consider coffee or beer and pizza a necessity, but they won't consider working out a necessity typically.
Right.
So when I was finding my financing, I had half the financing done by private investors because I knew folks in that space, and the other half I was going to get a small business loan through a bank, right? And the private investors came through pretty quickly because, like you, interest rate that I had to pay was pretty high. It was 12 and 3, meaning 12% interest on the note, and then 3% of all revenue.
Oh, wow.
So regardless of costs, not net, but 3% of all revenue. The other half of the financing was going to come through this loan from this guy named Matt Smith, who I met at a Chamber of Commerce event. And the private investors okayed it once they felt secure that the bank loan was coming through. That's what he told me. So fast forward, to give me the money, I start making purchases. I sign on with a lease agreement, 5-year lease, and Matt basically kind of skips town. Then he comes back, and he's at a different bank. He's like, "Hey Jim, I got you taken care of. We'll get it funded. Just give me 30 days." Well, another 30 days went by and nothing. And I've already set most of my ships a sail.
Man.
And long story short, he's like, you know what? It's not happening. And I would call over to the bank and talk to someone even higher up. And he's like, yeah, he doesn't even work here anymore. He's mostly been trying to bilk people out of money, taking deposits, things like that, and never happened. So
Maybe
when I
that's the guy
started,
I used.
right. So half my funding wasn't there. And the other half was at a really high percentage. And I'm already behind the 8 ball, like step one. And someone who has a background in finance, you really got to wonder, like, what was I thinking? That's pretty stupid, right? But at some point, you trust someone or you believe someone, and you follow up, and they have their credentials, and sometimes you still get burnt. And at that point, similar to you, when you're knocking on doors, you just dig in and you find a way, because there's going to be a way, one way or another, through, around, or over, right?
Yeah. I think being backed into that corner, though, is a blessing.
Absolutely, 100%.
I mean, I wouldn't have been knocking on doors on a Sunday getting chased by pit bulls if I wasn't in a corner.
Right? You wouldn't. And once you're in the corner, you learn about yourself, you learn about your why, you learn about some resilience, and then it's that memory that you can go back to when you're in pain again and say, hey, you know what? I handled this before. I can handle this again. All I need to do is keep going forward.
100%.
One of the best lessons.
Yeah. I think if you look at anyone in this world who's done great things,
Sure.
Oprah Winfrey, at one point they were in an extremely dark space that they had to get out of. And I think you're right. That provides now evidence like, well, of course I can go open this $1 million hotel. It's nothing compared to where I was here.
Yep. That's why they make boot camp what it is in the military, or even Hell Week for the SEALs or whoever else. They make things really challenging, so there's a reference point.
Yeah.
That you can go back to and be like, hey, I'll be okay.
Yeah, that's actually a super good point. You got me thinking on this, and I'm wondering if my brain kind of just goes back to that, because in bodybuilding, a lot of bodybuilders and fitness people, you see this with CrossFitters, they want to talk about how hard their workouts are. It's all they do, talking heads of how hard it is. And yeah, of course it's hard, but I've never really dwelled on my workouts being hard. I dwell on the result that I want to get, but I'm never one of those guys that's like, oh man, crazy workout today, so sore, and going on and on and on and on about it. It's like, no, man, it was an hour of tough stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's nothing compared to, living in Haiti.
Right. It could, or be 2 hours, or it could be 2 hours in the heat. Right. So it could always be something.
Yeah. Perspective, man. Perspective.
It helps. When I log on to your own podcast or your nickname, and it's usually Jesse the Shark, right?
Yeah. Right.
So now I'm wondering, is that because of the reference to the loan shark that you started with?
No, but that would tie in very well.
Now, so how do you come up with that?
So I used to be like really into, like, I grew up poor.
Right.
We did not have a lot of money, but my family, despite growing up poor, they sacrificed to send us to private schools, which was very top dollar. So I would get picked on a ton because I was surrounded by a bunch of rich kids and I didn't have two pennies to rub together. So I needed to learn to hustle money real quick. So one of the ways that I did that is I became like a poker player, like Card
Okay.
Shark. And then
Yeah.
I got into billiards. I'd go to pool halls and try to hustle games. So like pool
Dang.
stuff.
Well, depending on your size, you can kind of get your ass beat. If you're at a pool hall with a bunch of adults and you're a, 14-year-old,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you really have to be, tough pretty quick
Yeah. Yep. So I would just play pickup games and, hustling some cards.
just to make,
So did you win
I
very
won
often?
more at cards because I would actually mark the deck. And when I play against these rich kids, I'm just being real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
I couldn't stand them, man. So I had a marked deck. Gosh, I should really go back and apologize to these kids.
How about the billiards? Did you beat any
I
of the older
wasn't I
guys?
wasn't as good at the older guys. They would normally hustle me, so that was like a summer of me learning to get better at pool. So I just kind of was paying them my dues to get better. But eventually, I got good enough
Okay.
that I was able to,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's very few people know that the real story of why it's the shark.
Interesting.
Now all the viewers do.
Right. At least three of us.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm no psychologist, but growing up not with much money and I identify with that, we were the same. And you start taking all the efforts to make money on your own. And you also take all the efforts to build up your body so that either way, the way people look at you, whether it's physically or affluently, this guy looks like he's together physically, looks like he's together money wise. It looks from an idiot psychologist, me, that there's a lot of identity there. Hey, I need to protect myself, self-preservation, be
Mm.
able to, put myself out there and not be bullied, not get my ass beat.
Yeah. Well, that's not even the tip of it, and you're probably dead right. Is so my mom worked. And growing up, our neighbor ran basically, we didn't call it a daycare because that was back before that word exists, but ran a babysitting service. So her and her son would run a babysitting service. Well, the son was a child molester.
Mm,
So I'd go and get abused by him routinely, as well as all the other boys and girls in the neighborhood. So there's probably some of that as well, as far as like lifting and the
sure.
protection. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy, and he was too young to prosecute. So yeah, he never got prosecuted. But we forgiven. We have definitely forgiven, and you know he's obviously hurt people. So yeah, I think he's done the right thing and got his counseling and therapy. But there was a big uprising in the neighborhood that he was too young to prosecute, and the other dads wanted to like lynch him. I remember like they wanted to like go into the guy's house and handle it the old fashioned way.
no, nobody ended up taking it into their own hands.
No, I don't know what kept. I mean, my fathers were, or my fathers. My father was, really, really into God and everything, so he wasn't going to get violent. Some of the other fathers, I don't know. There was rumors that they were literally going to storm the house, and they didn't.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can see that.
pretty crazy.
Yeah. So pushing forward, you started Macro Millionaire. You said was it 19?
So we started it in like 2017 is when we kind of formed the LLC and started proving the model, and then
Okay.
really, really launched it in 2018.
And so with 19 different line items here of things that you've done with your education, you now have your own certification process that people can get continuing education for.
Yeah, so we
So
teamed
people
up
can
with
get,
IU. Yeah.
tell us about that.
Yeah, so we teamed up with IU School of Medicine. Actually, Dr. Hernandez was one of my clients. He was one of my bodybuilding clients. And he's a physician over at IU. So we became community partners with him. He got me into the right contacts, and we were able to use their study library. So we launched a certification late 2017, teamed up with NASM, ISSA, AFAA. So they approve our certification as well. And we really just wanted to get this was in kind of the mess of when everyone started coaching and all the keto and the carnivore and all these crazy diets. I'm not saying those are both particular. I'm not picking any diets here, but all this misinformation and partial truths is just being exploited. That we're like, man, we want to do a nutrition certification that isn't just the government RDA, which is what all the other nutrition certifications were. That was factual, growth driven. So that's the reason why we came out with that certification is we just wanted to give the people clear, or fitness professionals, clear and concise information and data.
Now, I remember specifically, we get shut down in 2020 because of COVID. We wait all the way to the end until the governor shuts us down. And I'm sitting on the back deck, and it's my wife, of all people, who doesn't have much to do with the gym at the time. She might coach a class or two here or there, but she's a nurse and she works for a large pharmaceutical company doing clinical trials. And she turns to me and she says, I've been reading a lot about what Jesse is doing over here, and I think his approach to nutrition is 100% spot on. We need to add this piece. And I'm like, really? Like we do powerlifting, we do strongman, we do CrossFit, we do sports performance, we have Highland Games, we do all this other stuff. We really need to add nutrition, and hands down, it makes an enormous impact. Whether I ask a powerlifter, a bodybuilder, a CrossFitter, a pro athlete, an amateur, they'll say anywhere from 60 to 75% of their success is their food intake and how they do it, right? So we're looking at all this stuff, and we're shut down for COVID, and I'm like, okay, let's check this out. And Jen's like, we should pull the trigger here. We should hop on board. And so I started looking at it, and I said, well, what's his shtick? What's his deal? Is it keto? Is it intermittent fasting? And she goes, all those programs work, and none of them work. I was like, okay, tell me more. She goes, the main thing is the main plan, or the main program that works is the one that you stick to. And what you do is you work with Jesse, and you find the one that the athlete can stick to based on their habits, and you start inching them along a little bit at a time. You educate and inch them along, educate and inch them along. If you do just a 6-week program, that's a big cold turkey kind of deal, it's really hard for people to stick to it. And then once they do stick to it or not, once they're done, they all rubber band snap back, and they usually regress on average.
Yeah.
And so we looked at that more and more. We're like, this really dovetails with how we train athletes, in that we progressively overload. We want to move them along systematically so that it's sustainable. So our main word that we're looking for in any of these programs is sustainability.
100%.
And we found that in your program. And then you and I are meeting one time where we're talking about, atomic habits and how they just move people along incrementally in that book as well. So once we put that all together with your program, Jesse, we thought, man, this just fits hand in glove. We love it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. A lot of our certification is is based off the research of James Clear. And I believe it's Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit.
Right.
And that's really what it is. It's lifestyle and sustainability. You can't tell someone that, is a corn grower on the plains of Indiana, hey, you're going to do keto. Just like you can't go to someone that's in the mountains and say, hey, you're going to do vegan.
Right.
So our upbringing, our religious background, our demographic, our culture, all of those things come in to the sustainability of our diet. So to come in and say that there's one way is just preposterous.
Yeah, it's not gonna. Yeah, that's ridiculous. And some of our clients, the method that works for them during part of the year absolutely does not work for them other parts. So when our farmers are on combine harvesting, intermittent fasting works pretty decently for them.
Sure. Great tool,
but once they're off and they're really active, well, it doesn't work at all. So you have to have enough nimbleness to be able to change and understand why. So with them, our nutrition clients are almost all of them they don't last a year because we don't want them to. They learn enough. We teach them their habits. They learn everything, and they can just sprout their own wings and fly. Now, our athletes that train with us, we have them training longer because they need a place to go. But the nutrition piece, once they're educated and their habits are set and they can sustain everything, then they are good to go. And it's, your program has been very, very, very impactful.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, we run it by the area coaching model. So AIR is awareness. Most people just aren't aware of what they're putting in their mouth and how much of it they're eating. The R is responsibility. My sister's an attorney. She's doing briefs all day. She's working 12, 16-hour days, sometimes 7 days a week. I can't go and put a bunch of responsibility on her. So me as a coach, I've got to gauge how much responsibility is this person able to gauge on their nutrition plan. Then the E is education, and then the A is accountability. So area,
Right.
AREA.
There's most clients a few months in will say, all right, I think I understand everything, but I'm not ready to stop working with you. I need the accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's probably at least 2/3 of it. Just having to
100%.
sit across from us and look at us and say, hey, this is what I ate, or this is what I've been drinking, or whatever else.
Yeah.
And your point about what goes in, well, that's always step one for us. We can't change your habit until you actually have the habit. So we got to know what's going in your mouth.
Yes. Yep.
Got to know. So
Yep.
we'll just spend a couple weeks figuring that out, tracking everything. And it's not guessing. You have to actually know.
Right. Right. If you want to help someone as a financial planner, just have them send you everything, all their expenditures for a week. They're going to spend less.
Yes.
You know,
Just being aware.
Yeah.
Just being aware, they will be better, right?
Yes.
And you improve what you measure. So if they write it down, they will be better. So if you write down your workout, or if you write down what you ate or what you spent money on, you will be better.
Yes. Yep. That key point right there, and reporting it to a third party or a coach, if you will,
Sure.
increases results exponentially.
Those pieces alone, you're more than 50% of the way there. The accountability and the awareness. Because now we're just gonna make a tweak.
Yep.
And they're like, that's it. I'm like, yeah, that's it. We're good to go. They're like, oh, okay, great. And next thing you know, they're 6 months down the road and they're off and running.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. I always tell clients, because we still have a couple executive coaching clients that Eric and I still take on. And I'll say, look, you're a high capacity human being. You don't need me adding to your plate because you're ready to, you can snap at any time because you're a lion already. So my job is to make this seem like simple. You should be coming to me and be like, come on, man, what am I paying for? This seems too easy.
Yeah.
I'm doing and because you're paying me for a result, you're not paying me to overload your plate. Life will already do that enough for these folks.
I tell them sometimes bored and unfulfilled. bored and unfulfilled. And to your point, like, I'm ready for more things here. I'm like, well, show me you can do these 2 things this week.
Right.
And if they can, great. But I have to show you. You have to show me. I have to see it. I have to know it.
Yep.
And then
when they do those 2 things, they're going to see results, which is what they're paying you for. Results.
Exactly. That's right. They want the results. That's what we give them.
Yeah. Amen, David.
I thought it was really interesting whenever I started my my prep for my competition. My coach just essentially just told me you need to get these supplements, you need to get this food, and he sent me the workout and he sent me the diet, and that was essentially it. And I remember talking, I was like, I just follow this and this is all I do. And he's like, yeah, and just communicate with me. And I was like,
master the mundane,
okay,
baby.
right.
Master the mundane.
Yeah. That's really it. You know, Robert Greene's mastery book, he talks about that all the time. You take the most basic, boring fundamentals and do them better than everybody else, and you basically get your best shot to win.
Yeah, that is 100%. Everyone's always looking for the new supplement, the new approach, what change up my macros. And if people will buy into mastery and just forget newness, that's going to be a top 3 athlete every time.
100%. Even in any sports discipline, you take the CrossFit world, like Rich does the most basic things perfectly. Right? Mm-hmm. When I say Rich Froning, right?
Yeah.
Does everything perfectly. It doesn't have to actually do all these extra special things on the side. And for 99% of the world that's just trying to be healthier, the really bottom line, fundamental and basics, move the needle quite a bit. Now with you, Jesse, you work with what I call the soccer moms and soccer dads, trying to get them healthier, right? But you also work with athletes that are competing at a little bit higher level, amateur and pro. Then there's bodybuilding, right? And you've been around CrossFitters and powerlifters. So to get to that higher level, there's a few more evolutions for things that have to occur for them to perform. And I've talked about this when we're training athletes, and the name of this podcast is Athlete Builder. When you're talking about the head, there's 3 components. There's the mindset, there's the knowledge of what they're trying to do in their sport, and then there's how they communicate with people. So we call that teammates. Then there's the body, what goes in nutrition-wise, what they do with it, how they train, and how do they recover. Those are the three things there. And if you're looking at an athlete, usually they have an iPad, or in an old school athlete, they'll be carrying around a playbook. So that's their overall plan, right? So talk to us a little bit about mindset in dealing with your athletes on the, when you're coming into a big competition, everyone's watching you. Talk about preparation and then performing. Some
Yeah.
tips there.
So the mindset, particularly of a physique athlete, which that is really tough. You're going in on show day. You can't like white knuckle your way. Like I can show up to a boxing match or a football game and I can white knuckle it. You know what I mean? On show day, all the work is done. And you're putting yourself in front of 7 to 9 strangers who are going to then compare you to the work that the people to your right and to your left did. It's very, very tough from a mindset standpoint because
it's probably
you just
humbling
you
too.
just show up. What's that?
It's got to be humbling too, right?
Yeah. Yes. So basically, what I use for the athletes is them being able to lean on flawless execution, because and what I call flawless execution is you can directly control if you hit your macronutrient distribution, what you put in your mouth, if you did the workouts as prescribed. That is a yes or no. It is a check the box or no. It is a pass, fail. And if you can pass that test, and this is how my mindset was when I competed. I would pass that test for 6 months or 4 months, however long my prep was. And I would get on stage knowing that not any of these athletes checked that box for 180 days straight. There's no way. And I did. I would cut a pea in half if it meant hitting my macros. I would get up at 11:59 right before midnight to go grab an amino acid tab because I had 1 gram of protein left. I mean, these things, because it was my control. I controlled the controllables. So when you control the controllables and you stand on stage, there's a peace of mind that, hey man, if it ain't my day, it ain't my day. But I controlled every single thing that I could possibly control, and chances are none of these other guys did.
When I talk to other athletes in any different sport, what I'll tell them is that, if they're nervous, whatever, I said confidence will always come from reps.
Mm-hmm.
If I ask you to squat 135, would you be confident that? Well, sure. How many times have you done it? If I put 535 on your back, well, then what, right? So to your point, if you're doing a bodybuilding competition, or if you're on the court in a basketball game, all these people are looking at you. So there's that perceived pressure. Could fail, could look silly. But when you walk on there and you've done everything that you could do, you at least got to believe that you belong there and you got a shot.
Yes, and there's confidence. And I'm telling you, I've judged shows for, decades now. You can tell in the faces of the athletes that cheated on their diets.
Sure.
Because it's a look of severe disappointment in themselves. And they know, even though they on Facebook and social media, they say, I didn't cheat once, I was hardcore. They know. And it's the exact opposite, Jim. You either show up on stage with that confidence, knowing in your heart that you did, or knowing that you didn't.
Right. So you don't have to, be happy when you get beat, obviously. But if you checked all those boxes and somebody just came in better, you're going to be like, all right, fine, tip my hat.
Yeah.
You win. You're still going to be pissed and all. But you're not going to walk around thinking, boy, I would have, should have, could have, or,
Yes, that is my goal.
I put it all out there. Yeah, you just want to know you put it all out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody wants to watch someone else walk away with their trophy because they wanted to have an extra couple beers that were off plan or some nonsense like that, or they had a moment of weakness.
Sure. And you go on stage once and you're the man in the arena now. You know how that feels. You go back to that experience, so then you push forward again the next time. And hey, last time I checked all these boxes, I finished top 5.
Right.
Check all these boxes again, and I evolve again. Maybe I'll be top 3.
Right.
And it's just doing the mundane thing over and over again. And now it's time to perform. And now the actual test day isn't nearly as scary because you're ready.
Right. I mean, and there is, although there is finer points of nutrition, particularly for the athletes, I don't want to ever see an athlete forsake the 99% that's tried and true and proven, chasing the 1% supplement or 1% fad or something. And you see a lot of that in the industry, you
Sure.
know. And that is one thing that I've made the mistake of in competing is you get down to those last 4 weeks and you're like, oh, what else can I do? And I'm just doing stupid stuff, like giving myself enemas and just dumb stuff, alcohol baths, taking a bath and rubbing alcohol to dry out, all the nonsense. So I get why people would want to chase that nonsense, but
Sure.
you really got to fight that urge and say, hey, look, this is what's worked the last 16 weeks. So this is what I'm going to follow in the final 4 weeks.
When I looking at to the gym, it's tried and true to get stronger. A box squat is fantastic, and then you'll see people doing squats on a Bosu ball,
Yeah.
on one leg, or they'll be loading up their back and they're trying to stand on a Bosu ball, and I'm like, oh man, come on, bro.
Yeah. Right.
That ain't it. From a knowledge standpoint, obviously, as you evolve as an athlete or a coach, your level of experience has to grow. Talk about how that can make a difference for an athlete. Just being,
Yeah, I think that can make a huge difference for an athlete, particularly like hormonally. A lot is going on, particularly in the sport of bodybuilding, with someone's hormones as they're getting ready for a show. Your body is you're literally starving yourself. Just put it out there. We're not meant. I'm not meant to walk around with striated chest and separated quads and striated triceps. That's literally what starvation looks like. And when you're doing that and you're getting that lean and holding on to as much muscle as you possibly can, there's going to be some things. I mean, your thyroid is going to tank. Okay, well, how can we naturally deal with that? Okay, your testosterone is going to come down. Sometimes you would have an athlete that will become estrogen dominant because their testosterone's plummeted and they're actually now estrogen dominant. Are there ways that we can naturally deal with that? So there definitely is. You need to have a coach that understands that dynamic, and that's just kind of one example. Micronutrients become incredibly more important as you get down. It kind of goes more off the calories for sure. Okay, but then the calories become less important as you're already lean and dialed in. Now it's your micronutrients. What is your dietary fiber looking like? How are we going to control the energy lulls? So there's a lot of nuance as at the higher the level that your athlete's competing, for sure.
So then there's the knowledge of what the textbook says, right? But then there's also the knowledge, how does your body react to what you just did? And
Right.
so how you're handling your thyroid at 25, or let's say your testosterone at 22 competitor, or 32 or 42 or 52. So you have the knowledge of what's happening when you're dieting down, but it also has to evolve as you evolve, right?
Right.
And so when I talk to other athletes, I say, here's what the book says. Here's what we're looking to do. The example I gave my son Jack is we're trying to get him bigger, but also faster in high school. And then right before he went to college to play football, he was light for a linebacker at 205. And I'd say you need to be heavier. And when he said, well, how much? I said, well, let's just see where we go. So let's target 215. Let's see how fast you are, how strong you are, how powerful you are, 215. Let's see what your body fat is. And let's see, he said, well, is that good enough? Well, I don't know. Let's see how fast you are at 225. Because his fear was that if he kept getting heavier and heavier, he would get slower.
Right.
Well, for a while, not the case. As he got heavier, he got stronger, and he's not running 100 yards at a time. He's running, 4 to 6 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards most. And when he got heavier, he actually got faster. I'm like, so here's what the textbook says, but let's see how your body reacts to it.
Right.
What about the dynamic with being the athlete? What I tell people is that for your teammate component in your head, you got to deal with the leadership team. That's your coach. Then there's the teammates around you that you train with. There's also the support team. If you're a bodybuilder and your wife's prepping food, or you're prepping food for your spouse or whatever, there's a number of teammate components there that becomes critical. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, 100%. And I literally just gave a whole seminar on this key one point, because the mindset of a bodybuilder, it's an extremely, in any sport taken to a high level, you have to be incredibly selfish or have incredibly selfish tendencies. Meaning like, hey, dad's got to eat this. I don't care what else, dad's got to train. Okay, so there has to be an incredible amount of that, and it's managing that selfishness around your family dynamic that is absolutely key. So yes, be selfish in the gym. Don't return texts or whatever, bring other stuff into your gym town. Be selfish with your nutrition. But when it's family time, the bodybuilding needs to go away because this is already consuming your life, and it will ruin your marriage if like that's all you do is live and talk bodybuilding. Trust me, your wife don't want to hear about it.
Sure.
She don't want to hear about it. So getting the athlete to realize that, hey, it's like Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. No one talks about
Right.
Fight Club. You know what I'm saying? So let this show, it's your show. That's great, but you're never going to win the crowd around you if that's all you're doing is talking about it and all you're doing is complaining about it, talk about how hard it is, how tired you are. Nobody likes that stuff. So knock it off. The athlete really needs to sell the sport, not like this look at me mentality, look how hard my life is mentality. Spouses cannot stand that. And I've seen this. I'm passionate on this topic, Jim, because I've seen this sport literally ruin marriages.
That just comes back to the whole sustainability word. And understand that when you're a college athlete or a pro athlete or someone that's competing like this, your life will be out of balance because you're putting so much into that endeavor that at other points in your life, it should snap out of balance in the other direction.
Right.
So that if you're neglecting your maybe your friends or family, that when you're not in that training mode or competing mode, you're out of balance with your family and friends.
Right. And I would push back a little bit, and I would say that you can definitely be a long-time high-level athlete
Sure.
and get the support of your friends and family. It's just how do you go about it? If you're at the family picnic and grandma's like, are you going to have some of my pumpkin pie? Okay, the person that does it the wrong way is like, oh, no, I'm in training. And they put the spotlight on them.
Mm-hmm.
The person who has sustainability and who wins the crowd is like, oh, grandma, that sounds great. Yeah, your pumpkin pie is amazing. I loved eating that as a kid. And then they're just going to go and talk to the next person and not have the pie. But
Sure.
They're not going to put it back on them about how they're training hard and they're getting ready for a show. They're just going to skirt over that issue.
Right.
In a really, really, I guess, humble way, as opposed to putting it the spotlight on themselves.
Right. Absolutely. Now, you done training, powerlifting, strongman, bodybuilding. Any crossover correlations or themes, rules to live by you have?
Yeah, I mean, we've the kind of the theme of what we've just been talking about is mastering that mundane.
Mm-hmm.
Getting up and doing the same 5 things that are goal driven, that are tried and true, that are proven over and over. That is how winning is done, is putting those reps in.
Gotcha.
Consistently on Saturdays, on Sundays. It is, and that's why so few people do it. It's just not fun. It's not sexy. It's not,
Right.
like when I'm getting in shape, whoa, man, what are you doing, dude? You're looking huge. What are you doing? And I tell them the 5 things, and they're vastly disappointed.
Yeah.
Vastly disappointed. Well, I've been doing those 5 things the last 118 days. So yeah, that's going to have a cumulative effect. It's a game of inches. And when those inches equal meters and those meters equal miles, that's when everyone wants to be like, hey, what are you doing? But they don't want to hear about the inches. Well, that's what you're doing.
Sure. Right.
I
talked to some.
I would really, really just try to find a way for our listeners to just get that.
Got it.
They're going to win. I guess for lack of better terms, it's just a discipline. And I'd rather be disciplined in a game of inches than standing on stage being like, oh man, I gave up a whole yard because I missed an inch there. I missed an inch there.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that for the book I'm working on about inches being in the title. And, it's obvious why. I had some very specific ones. How about tips on food, nutrition-wise, for dealing with inflammation from training or competing?
Yeah, so we typically, in America, we have omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So omega-3s tend to be inflammatory. Omega-6s tend to be, omega-3s tend to be anti-inflammatory. Omega-6s tend to be inflammatory. Nothing wrong in either with omega-6s, but we just tend to be out of balance. So to get that inflammation balanced, you would look at basically more cold water fish, increasing your omega-3s. You could look at, some people, instead of like a fish oil, they'll do like an algae, chia seeds, things like that. I would just say eat more cold water fish and be cognizant of how much omega-6 to 3 that you're taking in, because that's pretty much going to be a marker of inflammation, and keep your body fat in check.
Gotcha. Recovery tips there.
So recovery, making sure that, number one, that you're hormonally balanced. So how do you make sure that you're hormonally balanced? Sleep. The science on sleep. We could do an entire 2.5 hour long podcast just on sleep science. There's a sleep coaches are emerging up in the industry now. Absolutely key that you're getting quality sleep, and you're not cutting yourself short on that. 7 to 9 hours. 7 to 9 hours. That's great that you're hardcore waking up for your gym session at 3:30 on 4 hours of sleep. That gym session is nothing. You're better to get the sleep.
Sure.
If recovery is game, and recovery is the game. So that would be the kind of what I would call the hormonal equalizer.
3 things you could do to improve your sleep.
I would say sleeping in a cold room.
Yep, number 1. Yep.
Not looking at screens or having your phone even in the room with you.
Right. Not looking before you go to bed.
Yeah, and then avoiding, things that I probably don't do, but like avoiding alcohol before bed.
Sure.
Or other sleep disruptors. Caffeine would be an obvious one. Large meals.
White noise in there good?
Yeah, white noise is a good one.
Right. The more hardcore you become, because you're more dedicated, you can always elevate and evolve. So breathing work, meditation, prayer before you go to sleep, calm you down, right? Making the room 100% dark.
Yep. Basically, we want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system before we go to bed, but most people do the exact opposite. They're
all jacked up and excited. Yeah.
Yeah, or they're watching like sitcoms, or they're watching an adventure movie or something. So they're actually engaging their sympathetic nervous system, or they're drinking, or they're having caffeine.
Gotcha. All right, let's have some fun questions left. If you're out there training, you're training hard, right? What's something that you're listening to?
So I'm a big fan of like electronic dance music if I'm listening to music, but I've kind of replaced my music with podcasts recently.
Isn't it hard to focus on what you're training if you're listening to the podcast?
Oh, my training, Jim, it takes an incredible dip. I'm not in the psychology, it does. But no, if I'm like in season and I'm not doing a podcast, I'll listen to like EDM music, high energy music, or worship music. It's been my jam lately.
Perfect. Bucket list adventure location you haven't been to yet?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one, because my wife's like the world traveler. So there's like, what place hasn't she taken me to? Gosh,
maybe Cleveland. That's where I'm from.
I competed in Cleveland.
Oh,
that's
all right.
Actually a huge bodybuilding show promoted by Dave Learman in Cleveland. Huge.
Gotcha.
Huge. Yeah, I would say, gosh, the Maldives.
All right. Favorite sports movie?
Dude, I'm a big fan of high school football movies. Any Given Sunday, well, that wasn't high school, but Any Given Sunday is a good movie. Facing the Giants, Remember the
Titans.
Yes.
Friday Night Lights.
Yeah. We'll say Remember the Titans.
All right. Any favorite sport or athlete to watch?
I follow science. I don't follow people.
Okay. Favorite book?
I would say the Bible. Second to that, man, I might reread this, but this book here by Brendan Burchard, High Performance Habits.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, pretty solid book. And if you really want to like understand people's point of view, I'm really big in that. Having deep conversations with people that I disagree with, but having cordial conversations. Adam Grant's Think Again.
Okay.
Solid book, man. Solid book.
Favorite superhero?
We'll go with Batman.
Favorite villain?
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a good one. Terminator, man.
Favorite lift?
Deadlift.
If you had 10 million, what job would you do?
If I had 10 million,
Yeah.
I'd be doing exactly what I do now.
Yeah, me too. Coaching athletes, trying to get them better.
Yeah.
I would travel a little bit more and hike more and maybe catch more fish, but I'd be trying to get more kids to play high school sports at a high level, try to get more high school kids to play college, probably get more college kids to play pro. Favorite quote?
People don't know how much, or people don't care about how much you know until they know about how much you
Know
care.
how much you care, right? Any other advice for athletes?
No, man. Just if you're an athlete out there and you're looking to get to that precipice, you've got to master that mundane. You've got to put the work in every single day. It's the compounding effect. And I don't have science to this, but I actually feel that when you miss an inch, you almost reset yourself psychologically.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So quit trying to take life a meter at a time, a mile at a time, and just settle for the inches, because it's like the tortoise and the hare, man. It really is.
The not September 30th was 2-year anniversary of taking cold showers or cold tubs or ice baths and stuff. And I'm on vacation with Jen, and we're traveling with her parents, and she knows that the water's freezing cold in the shower, and she goes, we're on vacation. Are you still doing it? I said, I'm just really afraid that if I stop my habits on things I'm really trying to work on, then I'm just going to go in the other direction.
Right.
And I'm just too nervous about it. So if I'm trying to make a dent here, if I'm trying to improve my squat or get faster or whatever, I'm just so afraid that these things that that are my pillars that I'm building on, I drop those things. That's all going to come crashing down. Now, in reality, that's not the case, but I take comfort in the fact that, hey, I've done it 2 years in a row or 3 years in a row, right? So,
and I think you can use that fear to motivate you.
It does. It keeps me keeps me going.
Yeah, fear paralyzes some, but it also gets others to move. I use fear as a mover. It moves me.
Yeah, I love it. Yep. Where can we reach you or follow you or see what you're about?
Yeah, cool. So you can follow Macro Millionaire on Instagram, macro_millionaire. Jesse Dale, JESSEDALE, Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's from if you're from Indy, you want to grab a bourbon, cigar sometime, we can agree. We can talk politics, religion, marriage, agree to disagree. Okay. Love it. Jim and I do this. It's always fun.
When's your next bodybuilding contest that you're running?
November 18th. Yeah. So that's the Natural Indianapolis, November 18th, right here in Indianapolis, Indiana, Beech Grove High School.
Well, you've been a friend to me for a long time. You've been a friend of my gym. You've been a friend to our foundation. So, man, Jesse, it's been great. You and Eric have been great. Made a difference with me and Jen and our family, our other coaches and athletes. The knowledge that you've given us, we poured in others. So you are advancing your reach. And of all things, what I'm always looking to do, or something you are doing, is that you make an impact. So thanks for being on. Thanks for your constant effort. It makes a difference.
Appreciate that, man, Jim. I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, that wraps up our show. Be sure to catch the next one. We'll talk to you guys next time.